I find this very interesting. Here's a few quotes from anti-federalists that commented on Jews, and I bet there's a lot more. I haven't really been able to find any other than what the digital Jew gave to me, but I'm going to look into it more because I bet there is more. But the federal farmer, he stated, quote, Christians, pagans, Mohammedans, or Jews, expressing concern that the national government would elevate non-traditional religious groups to political power, which would be pagans, Mohammedans, or Jews. I believe, I think all the anti-federalists are Christians. So Patrick Henry was a leading anti-federalist, and he stated that the Constitution would permit, quote, Jews, Mohammedans, deists, abominable wretches, Negroes, beggars, and lastly, Jews to hold office. Holy cow, is he not correct? Right? Look what we have in office today. I mean, it's a freaking joke. It is a clown world in our country, with the absolute retards we have in power. So, and then Abraham Yates Jr., he was an Albany anti-federalist, and he stated that he would rather see the country break apart than risk a government controlled by Jew, Turk, or infidel. So, yeah, it would be interesting to find what else these three or others stated about Jews. And you know what Patrick Henry said there, that kind of goes back to some other stuff I've talked about in other videos, and what Mike Gaddy talks about. If you go watch his videos, the Constitution was never legit, and everything that is happening now has been allowed by the Constitution. Um, wasn't really there to protect us, and you know the real, true government document was the Articles of Confederation that, per Mike Gaddy, was never supposed to have been done away with. But the quote unquote Federalists uh, created a conspiracy to do away with it and then create the quote unquote Constitution, which is a freaking joke. So, if that piece of paper meant anything, everything that's happening today wouldn't be happening. But um, so, under that, in the Sentinel essay series, there are texts expressing concerns about, quote, the unfortunate and oppressed of all nations flying to America as a grand asylum where liberty is ever protected. And yeah, so right, the actual quote is the unfortunate and oppressed of all nations fly to this grand asylum, right? Well, that's true because that's what the Jews did. And I guess a lot of Americans lost their discernment and gave our country away to these unfortunate and quote unquote oppressed people. And then under that, it says in a document on religious text and eligibility for office, a source states, and this is supposedly from a delegate in the North Carolina convention, says, quote, it appears as if we are to depend on the honor of infidels. There was an invitation for Jews and pagans of every kind to come among us. Be interesting to find out who sent that invitation. So, um, and then who was federal farmer? They claim it was either Richard Henry Lee or Melancton Smith. Both of them were Christian. Uh, so yeah, you can pause and read the rest, and that's all I got.